Drop top, moonlight, only come out when the sun's down.
Alrighty, what is up everybody? It is your boy Farai. Thank you once again for tuning into another video. Today I'm going to be showing you how to mix radio ready sounding background vocals. I'm also going to be giving you a little bit of secret sauce in regards to how to perceive where you're going to place your background vocals in the mix. You can also apply these techniques to, for example, add on instruments, right, alongside your main instrument in a mix, right? But overall, these are really important techniques that you should learn if you are looking to become a mixer. If you want to learn more, definitely check out the courses below. I've got a vocal recording course and vocal mixing course. In those, I show you how I approach recording within a DAW. So with that being said, let's get into it. Alright, so for those who watched the last video, this is from the kind of pop radio wave vocal effect where we remix the E&D or Let You track. I think this is a really cool example of kind of what's up to date on the radio right now. But we'll play the track and then we'll mute the main vocal and see how the background vocals kind of pop in and out. And then we will take a look at how we can achieve that. Let's get into it.
It's making me sad, so I let you. Okay, you say that you changed, but you never change. Same text on the phone, yeah, it's all the same. Oh, it's all a game to you. Do I sound insane to you? End up just ignoring you because of the things you do. Get up on the plane, I gotta go. I can't never stop it, that's for sure. Yeah, when you hold me down, we never know. We never know, yeah. Drop top, moonlight, only come out when the sun's down. Can't break up, yeah, make up, and we do it again. This time I know.
Alright, so there you go, right? Sweet and simple. So the first thing is kind of identifying the characteristic that we have for this effect. Since we're going for a more kind of mainstream sound, we need to make sure that our background vocals are mono compatible, make sure that they're not too crazy wide, but make sure that they complement the track in a way to where it's adding on but not overtaking the song. So that's really what we're going for in terms of levels and spacing. But I really want to show you how to achieve that, because I know there are a lot of mixers who, you know, are starting off or have been mixing for a while. And what I find with a lot of kind of mixers these days are that they're too narrow, right? They don't really have that kind of pocket of space. And so I want to show you how to perceive, you know, kind of what you might be looking for, right? So, you know, the way I've been doing this for a while is that I perceive mixing as if everything in the mix is inside a box, right? A 3D box. Obviously, I can't draw a 3D box right now, but we can look at this box in two ways, right? We can look at it going top to bottom, and then we can also look at it going from left to right. And this is kind of all the space we have within our two speakers, right? If you think of your two speakers being on the left and right side, you know, our ears can kind of detect sound, you know, existing somewhere within this box, okay? So the way I like to do this, right, and this is super simple, is I like to have my main vocal. Whoops, how do I draw another one? Okay, cool. So I like to really have the main elements in the track kind of sit somewhere here, okay? So in this section we would have, let me make sure I'm not writing too big, you know, but basically in this section I want to have, come on, okay, so paint crash, but you know, it is what it is. So really in the middle of the mix, I want my main vocal to exist, I want the drums to exist, and I want anything else that's super important, for example the bass and whatnot. But you know, when it comes to mixing, I'll kind of add on elements, right? We want those to exist on the side of the mix. And that's really what we're trying to do with our background vocals. We're trying to have them complement all of these instruments in the same way that, for example, a small little synth line, a do-do-do-do line is going to complement maybe a piano in a ballad, something like that, okay? So really what we want is we want our background vocals to fit either somewhere up here, okay? We have space there, we have space over here, we have space over here, and we have space over there, right? At times you're going to want to do harmonies in the middle. It's up to you, really. And it's really up to how the song is, right? So for example, if an R&B singer gives you 20 background vocals, you may want to stack some of those up mono, but you are going to want to stack some of those into these kind of spaces. And I'll really show you how to achieve getting the vocals or instruments into these spaces. It really is a nice technique that you need to learn. The second you learn how to do it, your mixes are going to start opening up, okay? So we can have, you know, BGs here, right? Anything really. I can just put X here because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what we put there, right? The idea is the same. We want something that's going to be able to separate a kind of mix apart and make it sound more in-depth, right? So hopefully you get the idea of what I'm trying to show you. So the way that I do this is via two methods, right? Or three actually, okay? The first one would be EQ, straight up, okay? I can EQ things in a way to where your ear might hear this element that we've EQ'd either further back in the mix or maybe closer up and more kind of up front, right? We can do that via EQ, and I'll show you how. We can also make use of modulation, right? Which is flanger, which is your chorus, which is anything like that, right? Your phases. And then we can also make use of our time-based effects. Okay, those are also modulation, reverbs and delays, but we can also use panning, right? So you can see, for example, these two background vocals, right? These pop in the mix right here. Hopping on a plane, I gotta go. And immediately you can kind of hear, if you kind of close your eyes and just listen to these elements again, right? Just close your eyes right there for a second. Hopping on a plane, I gotta go. I can never stop, and that's for sure. Right? Can you not feel that if these spaces existed within a box, that these spaces are kind of sitting at the bottom of the box, right? And we've done that via kind of just darkening up our vocals, right? We've kind of made sure that the top end in those backgrounds is not too prevalent. And that way it sounds kind of more sagged into the mix and it fits into the main vocal, right? And then we've used our panning to create a stereo effect. So that way, when we play the main vocal, things you do, get hopping on a plane, I gotta go. I can never stop, and that's for sure. Can you hear how suddenly our background vocals are kind of sitting on the side? And that's really all it is, right? It's just placing our elements within the mix using the tools that I've just kind of shown you. So yeah, that's really it, man. So what I'll really then do is I'll kind of guide you through how I mixed each one, and hopefully that should give you a rough idea of different techniques that you can use to achieve what I'm trying to show you. Okay, so let's take a listen. So we've got our first one right here. This is the pop layer. Let's kind of just go somewhere where there's a lot going on. We will bypass the main vocal. So you can see, right, we haven't really done too much. All we've really done is taken away some top end and added some width, added a bit of dimension with flanger. That's really it. Video over, right? But I'm sure a lot of you want to learn how to do that. So we'll do that. So let's firstly take a listen to kind of these two layers right here. Over here, we've got a pop layer, really. We can name it anything, but it's essentially just a layer that should be kind of spiky. It should be kind of popping into the mix, but it shouldn't sound harsh, right? Right, that to me is going to be the main doubler in the song. It needs to be mono compatible. So if I mono the mix, and it translates perfectly in mono, okay? And the way that I've done that is I've simply started by dropping the level, right? Because I want it to sound lower in the mix. Remember, when we're able to pull the volume down, my bad, I should have added that earlier. When we're able to pull the volume down, it sounds like it's lower in this kind of three-dimensional box, right? Because it sounds like it's further away or maybe sitting behind the main vocal, which is loud and upfront in your face, okay? So that's the first thing I did. Second to that, then I added a little bit of modulation. The modulation is just going to kind of, you know, mellow it into the mix, give it kind of that trippy vibe. Whenever I'm doing kind of more, you know, crazy poppy or punk style background vocals, I want them to sound almost like guitars. So I'm kind of following what a guitarist might do by adding just a little bit of flanger. We don't want to add too much, otherwise we are going to make it sound too modulated and it's going to drown out in the mix, okay? It's also going to start sounding annoying. So kind of just play around with different flangers. There are many different that we can use, okay? So that's what I did right there. If I disable that, right, when I turn it on, it just kind of adds a bit more of a 3D effect in there, okay? Second to that, I am using a lot of EQ, okay? So this is really where your experience is going to come in. You're going to want to really mess around with the EQ, but the kind of main point is that you want to make sure that you're getting rid of a lot of the top end in the vocal. That way it kind of sounds like it's further back in the mix, okay? I'm not going to go through every EQ push here, but you get the idea. Mess around with the EQ, play it with the main vocal, and try and get an effect that works. And then I'm really emphasizing 600, dipping away some of the 200, you know, and just having fun. I'm using 2 EQs, so have fun with your EQ. Okay, here I'm using a little bit of stereo width to just widen up the flanger. Okay, from then on out I send it into a reverb. The reverb then gives us a little bit of depth. Okay, so we've got that flanger to create wideness, and then we've got that reverb to add a little bit of depth. right? Can you see how we've gone from just a pure telephone effect to a kind of more kind of spacious sounding, you know, cool effect, right? So there you go. That's it. That's all I'm really doing. Again, then I used a bit more width. I'm just making it really wide, but again, it is mono compatible, so that's fine. And then I'm just using a little bit more compression or limiting just to kind of give it that upfront sound. So you can see how simple this is. You know, it doesn't really matter how many plugins you're using. It just matters that you are doing the same things kind of over and over again, dealing with that top end, fitting it into the mix, right? Hopefully that makes sense to you. So there you go. That's kind of the first one. The second one, again, is kind of following the same idea, but this time around I'm following CLA's kind of mixing technique, and you'll see right now. Right, this is kind of like a early 2000s Backstreet Boys, you know, modern rock type vocal effect. It's very clean, it's very rich sounding, and what I do there is I just EQ it, really add a bit of modulation, okay, via this gem mod, which was free, and then a little bit of reverb, just a tiny bit of reverb to give it a bit of a room sound, and then just EQ it, man, just a little bit of EQ to give it that telephone effect. But you can hear how rich this sounds. For sure. Oh yeah, sounds down. Break up, make up. So if I turn that off and you just hear the telephone effect, sounds down, break up. You can hear just how nice that recording is, how nice that EQ is. It's not too harsh, right? But if it was too harsh, we could add a little bit of de-essing, right? So I'll just enable that for you. Sounds down, break up, make up. We could make it darker. I just really liked how I recorded it, so I didn't need to do too much de-essing or anything. And that's really it. Can you see how all we're using is modulation, EQ, right, and then a little bit of reverb for depth? You can do this over and over again and achieve really nice results, and then vary these effects on different types of songs. Okay, background vocals, again, I used an analog compressor while recording, so I did not need to compress. If you do not have an outboard compressor, all you need to do is add a nice analog style compressor. Something like the LA2A would work. If I just kind of show you what I would do, let's just pull up I have something similar to this, so a compressor like this, an opto style compressor, would work really well. But for example, something that's mirroring these kind of characteristics would work. Hopping on a plane, I gotta go. I can never stop, and that's for sure. When you hold me down, we never know. We never know, yeah. You can see how the LA2A reacts in a very similar way. All it does is kind of just bag all the vocals into a certain pocket. So I turn up the compressor threshold a little bit more, so it compresses a little bit more, catches more of those peaks, and just kind of cushions the vocals. And you get this really nice, creamy sounding vocal sound. If I just play this again. Hopping on a plane, I gotta go. I can never stop, and that's for sure. When you hold me down, we never know. We never know, yeah. And we achieve that flangy sound simply because we've re-recorded both vocals as separate takes. Okay, a lot of people say, hey man, I'm going to duplicate the vocals. I would recommend not doing that. Spend the extra 5 minutes recording the extra background vocals, and you're going to get a much wider sound. So there you go. I just pan those left to right with a little bit of auto-tune, and then tuck them into the mix, and that's really all it is. You know, additional things we can do is further send these effects to some of our effects buses. So for example, this pop layer goes into the delay a little bit, right? Hopping on a plane, I gotta go. There's just a little bit of extra reverb going on, a little bit of extra delay going on, but really not much, because we've done most of the effects in this part of the mix, and that's really it. Yeah, hopping on a plane, I gotta go. I can never stop, and that's for sure. Yeah, when you hold me down, we never know. We never know, yeah. And as you can see, it doesn't really interfere with the instrumental, it doesn't overpower the main vocal, and that to me is a good blend of background vocals. So hopefully you learned something in this video. Again, apply these techniques to your mixing style. If you're doing a more hardcore, heavy metal style track, you're gonna wanna maybe get those treble boosts going, maybe get rid of some of that bass, right? It is your job as the mixer to kind of interpret what you have in front of you and then mix it appropriately. So hopefully you enjoyed yourself. Again, if you want to learn more about this, check out my link tree below, where you can check out my vocal recording course, vocal mixing course. You can do Zoom consultations with me, have me look over your mixes, have me punch stuff through outboard gear. Why not? It is up to you. And yeah, check out the web store as well for this FLP if you are an FL Studio user. I also have a Waves preset pack, many different things. But with that being said, hopefully you have a great weekend and great month. I'll check out next time. Peace out.